Welcome back. Segment number 3 on the way with Jennifer Fierro, your broad podcaster here in the Llano Yellow and Art Dlugach, the voice of the Llano Yellow Jackets. We're going to get into a heavy dose of college football recruiting. Obviously, right now, the big winners so far in the last 7 days have been the Texas Longhorns getting the commitment of #1 overall athlete for the class of 2023. Senior quarterback Arch Manning out of Isidore Newman High School in New Orleans, Louisiana. And then that has brought in a ripple effect. 4 offensive linemen, 2 or 3 wide receivers, some defensive guys. I think Texas is up to 14 commitments, have the #2 rated class as of Wednesday afternoon with 14 total commits. But Art really challenged me on this because I didn't look past the top 3. He wanted to know about the top 50. So let me read this to you because I think this says a lot about college recruiting and the Texas-based football coaches. Okay, so here we go. Joey McGuire, who we met last month, Texas Tech. He has the #8 rated class right now with 22 commits.
Good coach.
Baylor with Ariondo, 20 commits, #9 overall.
Another good coach.
Cincinnati, #10 with 20 commits. Cincinnati is one of the new schools coming to the Big 12 next year. West Virginia is at #15 with 17 commits. Iowa State at #24 has 15 commits. TCU is at #26 with 12 commits. SMU, who wanted to get into the Big 12 by all reports, TCU did not let that happen. But SMU is at #34 with 14 commits. Oklahoma's #40 with 8 commits. And Oklahoma State's at #42 with 9 commits. That's the top 50. I did not find Texas A&M, and I used the 247 system. 247 it compiles the 4 recruiting services and comes up with one number for each of the teams. Right now, the Aggies have 6 commits. So, and let me say for the record, even though I love the University of Texas, Texas A&M is not going to stay at 6 commits. They're not going to, okay? It is late June, early July. The early signing period, or the early signing period is in December. And then, of course, National Signing Day, the real one to a lot of people, is still in February. Jimbo Fisher is not going to stay with 6 commits, okay? Let me say that for the record. So whether you love A&M or you hate A&M, just come to the reality that Jimbo Fisher is going to put together a great class. Your thoughts on the recruiting, Art?
Well, earlier in a nice presentation by Jennifer, I gave a thumbs up when she mentioned Arch Manning, and that was not for the University of Texas, and not for Peyton nor Eli, but for Archie Manning. Archie, who in his day as the quarterback for Ole Miss, and the patriarch of the 3 young men that I just mentioned. I still think Eli and Peyton are young men. But Archie was just one of the most outstanding quarterbacks the South has ever seen. And I got to see him play one time. Actually, he lost in the Astrodome to Houston in the early 70s. And then he had a fine career with the New Orleans Saints, but the Saints were terrible. So there were no Super Bowls for Archie. But it'll be great to see how Arch does. He still has a senior year to go, as Jennifer said. And just to watch him as the 4th Manning will be so interesting. And the story that some of you may not know, because you know all that other stuff, he's the son of Cooper Manning, who was supposedly in high school the better or the best of the 3 football players, he and Eli and Peyton, but Cooper got hurt and never was able to play college football.
Yeah. Actually, that's not necessarily completely true. He signed and was on his way to Ole Miss, and he had a neck issue that was discovered. He had to have operation. He had to learn to walk again. and he was forced to give up the sport to save his life. So he was on his way. He had signed with Ole Miss as a receiver. He was a senior receiver when Peyton was a sophomore starting quarterback. So, and that I have watched the documentary on the Book of Manning numerous times on ESPN. That's a 30 for 30. Highly recommend it. But let's go back and talk about Archie and Arch. Summarize it. Tell me about Archie Manning and what you remember about him. What made him so great?
Well, his statistics, for sure, just a great passer. I don't remember him being much of a running quarterback, but he did something right because he was just beloved, mainly by the folks in Oxford, Mississippi, of course. But I think the other teams in the SEC had great regard for him. I'm sure they did, and other fans throughout the South and the Southeast. I grew up in Memphis, which is only 70 miles from Oxford, Mississippi, and Memphis was just a stronghold of Ole Miss fans, and liked Ole Miss better as a whole than it liked the University of Tennessee, which was 400 miles away in Knoxville. But Archie could just do it all as a quarterback. The typical quarterback of the day, as I say, throwing the football.
What sticks out is his ability to extend plays with his legs. Not necessarily run out of the pocket like you see a true dual-threat quarterback today, but somebody who could run around behind the line of scrimmage and could throw the football on the run. In that sense, I think his grandson is closer to his playing style than his two sons, Eli and Peyton. Eli and Peyton, to me, were quarterbacks who liked to stay in the pocket. Didn't really scramble a whole lot, didn't extend plays a whole lot, preferred to stay in the pocket. I couldn't even say that they had RPOs, a run-pass option.
No.
They were more statuesque in wanting to stay in the pocket. Arch is not that way. The footage that I have seen in the games that I have watched of Arch, he moves around in the pocket. He tucks the ball and runs. I don't know that he's fast or quick because, again, I have just watched him against high school athletes. But in the sense that his legs, who I would compare has legs like Archie, I would think Arch does. And that's where I think Texas will be it'll be very interesting to see how Steve Sarkisian and Texas uses Arch if and when he signs with Texas. Now, the other thing that Texas fans don't want to hear, if Texas has another 5-7 season and this number 2 rated class falls apart, because we still have the rest of this summer and all of fall to get to before we get to December National Signing Day. There's a lot still to be decided. So, and I don't want to take UT, the fans' excitement away, but at the same time, I've been a Texas fan all my life. I have watched Mack Brown sign top 5 teams, top 5 recruiting classes. They used to call him Coach February, which he didn't like much. And I have seen Texas only win 2 conference titles the entire time Mack Brown was there, played for 2 national championships, and just win 1. So I know this guy will say, because he and I go round and round and round on this, he thinks Mack Brown is great and can't take anything away from Mack. I just know one bad season and the trickle effect that it can have.
Well, I want to say, too, about Arch and his ability to move around in the pocket. You just cannot be a quarterback today, especially in high school, and Arch still has senior year to go, without being that kind of quarterback. The days of just being a drop back, they're pretty much gone, or there are not many of them left. Tom Brady is nothing more than a drop back quarterback. I'll assure you, neither was Ben Roethlisberger, who is now retired. But Arch, without ever having seen him, I'll guarantee you, he can move around. And my defense of Coach Brown always was, I thought he had real good teams, won most of the time, won one national championship, which I think is pretty good, played for another, and I just thought he was a fine coach. And I just didn't think he got a very good deal being let go when he did. Although I'll have to say it looked like it was getting to be the time for him to leave. But before that, I give him all credit.
Well, the Texas fans would not trade, and I'm talking about myself for sure. As I've gotten older and I watch the product on the field, Texas has had 3 head coaches since Mack left. I appreciate the Mack Brown era a lot more today than I did when he left at the end of the 2013 season. I hope for Texas to one day get back there. We'll see what Steve Sarkisian does, but there's no question. I love the recruiting class that he's putting together, the back-to-back recruiting classes that he's put together for 2022 and what he's putting together for 2023. I will just feel a whole lot better when these kids are signed and Steve can actually talk about them at his press conferences.
I think Coach Sarkisian is going to do a very good job. I think last year was just absolutely a blip and couldn't believe it the way Texas was losing those big leads and losing the games. I don't think you're going to see, if you don't like Texas, I don't think you're going to see that 2 years in a row. And you haven't mentioned Quinn Ewers. I know you're high on him.
Very much so, because I know where Quinn Ewers learned to be a quarterback. South Lake Carroll High School, playing for Riley Dodge, the son of somebody I highly respect, a first ballot Hall of Famer going into the Hall of Fame this summer, and that's Todd Dodge, who has guided Westlake to the last 3 state championships in 6A. So it's very difficult for me not to be high on Quinn because I know the quarterback pedigree. But you'll hate this. Sports fans, 4 of the worst words in all of sports, we have to let it play out. That's all I got. Art, do you have anything else before we wrap this one up?
I'm going to think about those 4 or 5 words, and but I think I've pretty much said my piece.
Okay. For Art Dlugach, I'm Jennifer Fierro, your broad podcaster here in the Highland Lakes, and please like, subscribe, and share the channel. It would mean so much to us. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.